Lesson 4 Video 2. In Lesson 4 Video 1, we covered putting images into a web page using the image tag with the source attribute and then putting the URL to that image in the quotation marks after the source attribute. In this lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about the behavior of images, and we're also going to talk about something called alt text or alternate text. I'll start with alt text because it's very simple and straightforward. Alt text looks like this, okay? I'll type it again for you just so you can watch. ALT, not ATL, ALT equals quotation marks. This is an attribute. So we talked about attributes before. We used the source attribute before. We've used the style attribute before. This is the alt attribute. Attributes always look like this. The attribute's identifier, which is its name, in this case it's alt, equals quotation marks, and in the quotation marks we have to have some sort of a value. The value for this is going to be a string of text. That text is going to be read by the browser and interpreted. So I'm going to type in something that makes sense for the picture. And the picture that I used was a ghost scaring a man. Picture of a ghost and a man. Okay, I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back here and refresh. You might not see any change, okay? You don't see any change right now. The way alt text works is if somebody is using your website that is using text only, if they're visually impaired, for example, they might have a screen reader which will read to them all the text that's on a page. When you hover over this image, if you have a screen reader, it will speak that text to you. Also, if the image is missing, you won't get a picture there, you'll get a little X, but it will also display the alternate text. It will tell you what image was supposed to be there. And furthermore, if we right-click on the image and go to Properties, the alt text shows up right here. Alternate text, picture of a ghost and a man. This is good form. We always want to use alt text whenever we place an image into a web page. One reason is just to make the website usable by anybody who's visually impaired. So that's alt text. It's pretty simple. Do it on every image. I expect it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit about image behaviors, okay? Let's just say I've got a bunch of images. All I did was copied and pasted it, okay? I've got 5 images. And each one of those image tags I put on a new line. Okay? How do you think this is going to display? Do you think that we are going to see each image on its own line? Or do you think something else will happen? Well, let's run it to see. Okay, so what happens is the images do not force a new line every time a new image comes up. An image will sit next to another image on the same line. The only way to force a new line would be by using page breaks. So if I wanted each of these on their own line, I would have to put a break after each image. Break we talked about in, I think, lesson 1 or 2. Save it. Now all of these images can go on their own lines. But images, all they do is they will slide right on next to whatever content was there previously. So if there was an image there previously, the new image will just sit right next to the old image. So that's one basic part of image behavior. We're going to deal with images a little bit differently later on when we start using CSS. We're going to start talking about controlling the height and width of an image using CSS, controlling a border property with the CSS, controlling something called alignment and float with CSS, and just generally dealing with the placement of the image. Okay, so that's basic image behavior, and that's alt text.